Well, we heard the same thing from Tulsa public health officials last week. Please don't hold a mass gathering indoors here. We're going through a spike in cases in Tulsa and in the state of Oklahoma. Obviously, what you hear from local officials like mayors is that they are dealing with this on the ground. They don't have the luxury of dealing with the politics of it the way President Trump would like to have it go away. Let's go to Arizona. Joining us now from Yuma, NBC News correspondent Jacob Soboroff. Jacob, great to see you. You've been down covering the border literally for years. What will you be watching for today when the president visits Arizona?
Well, I think, first of all, Willie, what's important to note is that the reason I'm wearing a mask out here in the middle of nowhere is that the city of Yuma is now mandating that people wear masks because of what is going on along the southwest border in this border community. Two workers that worked on this very wall that President Trump is coming to see today have been diagnosed with the coronavirus, according to reporting from our own Vaughn Hilliard. And I think that is the context that people need to remember when the president comes to try to show this thing off today. It's 30 feet tall. There are 200 new miles of border wall here along the southwest border. And I think it's easy to say most of that is replacement wall. But the reality is when you talk to advocates and activists here along the southwest border, they're devastated by the fact that this thing has gone up and that the president, while Mexico has not paid for it, has used Department of Defense money to put it up. They believe it'll lead to more dangerous and deadly crossings for migrants out here, and there is a history, a pattern and practice of that happening. And then back to the coronavirus, that is the larger story that is happening right now in Arizona. The president doesn't want to focus on it, but it is almost unavoidable. Local officials, as Mika mentioned, have been talking about it nonstop here. They're literally sending patients from Yuma, Arizona to Tucson, Arizona, because the hospital is overcrowded here. In addition to the workers that have been working on the border wall contracting the coronavirus, it is just rampant throughout this community. It's also in ICE detention centers here in Arizona. As Julia Ainsley and I reported over the course of the last couple weeks, an explosion inside ICE detention centers. Arizona is this hotspot. Immigration is what the president wants to focus on, but it's going to be unavoidable that coronavirus is what's hanging over this entire trip for President Trump here today to the border.
And Jacob, on the question of testing, NBC News is reporting a chaotic scene in the state of Arizona. As those cases spike, you're seeing a rush of people going for COVID-19 cases, long lines at testing centers, some people being turned away, some people traveling to other states to get them. What does the testing situation look like on the ground?
Vaughn Hilliard himself wanted to go get a test over the course of the last couple of days and was unable to do so without an incredibly long wait. There's a week-long turnaround in one of the big laboratories here in order to get results from testing. Contrast that with where I come from in Los Angeles. I drove here last night. I'm able to get a test and then virtually the next day get a result out west in California. That is not the case here at all. There's also the argument to be made that President Trump has said he's shut the border down for people coming back and forth to stop the spread of the virus. That's actually not accurate at all. There is what CBP calls legitimate trade and travel coming back and forth across the border. The medical centers and medical providers in Mexico are not as good as they are here in dealing with coronavirus. And that presents another issue, which is the virus, which came from the United States into Mexico and is now freely going back and forth, is not being tested or treated adequately. The president's saying we're testing too much. When you listen to local officials here on the ground in Arizona, they're saying the exact opposite. Without testing, sufficient and robust testing on both sides of that new border fence, you're going to see a big problem continue to get bigger here in Arizona.
Jacob, you mentioned those crowded detention centers. As I said earlier, you've been down there for years covering the story of family separation and detentions at the border. A lot of Americans obviously shifted their attention to coronavirus. They shifted their attention to the fights in the streets for racial justice in this country. But update us, if you can, update our viewers on what exactly is happening in terms of family separation and in terms of what you're seeing in those detention centers.
Well, what I hope people don't forget, Willie, is that here in the Yuma sector, when the president meets with Border Patrol officials later today, it was the Yuma sector that Julia Ainsley and I reported on last year, insofar as the overcrowding and the conditions in the facilities here led at least 30, according to reports that we had obtained in the summer of 2019, children to accuse the Border Patrol in this sector of abusive treatment. We still have not heard the results of an investigation into our reporting and what was alleged by the children here in Yuma sector from over a year ago. I asked as recently as yesterday. We have not heard. Family separation, of course, also took place exactly 2 summers ago right now in this sector. And in fact, one family that I followed closely was separated right here in San Luis, where the president will be later today. And that's something that people shouldn't forget. The president's going to come down here and make this strong showing about this 30-foot new border wall behind us. But there is a lot more when it comes to immigration in this area that the president's responsible for. And quite frankly, a lot of pain and suffering for migrants who are coming here to seek asylum, Willie.
All right, Jacob Soboroff down along the border in Yuma, Arizona. I know we'll be hearing from you all day as the president makes his visit down there. Jacob, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.